Monday, October 1st. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, tech conventions and why we avoid them.
And your mom. Let's do this.
Well, last week we started asking for questions to do another week, well, a week as opposed to just a day of Ask Rim and Scott, and I gotta say, you guys kind of impressed me for once. We actually got some intelligent questions.
Yes, but regardless of the fact that we got intelligent questions, we need more intelligent questions, because we can never be sated. We will always be wanting more questions.
Plus, we're gonna hold out until we get questions for every day of the week. I don't know if we said too clearly, but basically, at some point, once we have enough questions, we're just going to...
In a week or two, probably.
Yeah. Every day, 1 week, it'll be a theme week. It'll be we answer the questions for each day on each day or night.
So all you people who are like, not listening to what I'm telling you and going back through the archives instead of just listening to new episodes and only listening to old episodes that might interest you based on, the titles. If you're doing that thing where you're crazy, you're going to miss out on your chance to ask a question, and you're not going to get another chance for a long time. And you're not hearing this because you're not doing what I told you to.
Why would you tell people they can listen however they want?
They can, but I suggest you do it the way I say. Because that is the way of not crazy people.
I don't know, if I were listening to this show, what I would probably do is I'd listen to the new episodes, and I'd probably just randomly search through the old episodes.
That's what I was saying people should do.
Yeah?
There are people, though, who are apparently starting at the beginning and listening to each one in order, which I think is crazy.
However, why... all right, so you've written this up now in this show. They're not going to hear this for a couple months.
I know, and they're missing out. So this is a ha-ha to everyone who's crazy.
But they'll still get the questions answered, and do you really think those people are going to ask the kind of questions you want to answer anyway? They're not missing anything.
Maybe, but maybe.
Ah.
All right, so yeah, make sure that your questions are not answered in a previous show of Geeknights.
Or at least hope that we forgot that we answered it already.
Yes, don't have incredibly long answers. There's a lot of good questions that take an entire episode to answer, and that kind of sucks because we want to answer it. And
well, a question like
episode idea.
How do I set up a Myth TV box is not good.
No,
a question like why should I use Myth TV is good.
Yes. See, also don't ask questions like Rim just said that could be answered on Google because I'm not going to just go search on Google for the answer for you. You can do that yourself. You don't need to ask me. You ask us things that are like discussion topics or opinions or something like that.
Or like, what was your first computer?
Yes.
Why do you like the Commodore whatever?
Yep, and make sure it's a question involving science or technology, at least for Monday.
When did you stop beating your wife?
Right after you told your parents you were gay. All right.
Right, so what have you been up to?
Boringness. Yeah, no. So since I haven't been doing anything, we're just going to do some news right now.
All right.
The news is the newest version of Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Yes, the Gutsy Gibbon.
I haven't gotten to do that in a while.
No, the Gutsy Gibbon beta is now available. Now, it is a beta, and it is pretty beta, I must say. The live CD that you will download if you want to use this is very beta. However, it's been my experience in the past with Ubuntu betas that if you install the beta and then update it and then keep updating it, it will work pretty well and eventually become the stable version. So you won't have to reinstall when the final version comes out. You'll just update straight into the final version and it won't be a problem.
I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but I'm excited since it has a new kernel and my hardware is barely supported by the current kernel I'm using.
Well,
Feisty.
I put it on my laptop. And I had a little bit of a problem because I was getting some error messages indicative of hard drive failure.
Oh, wait, what? From Smart?
No, from the Linux kernel.
Uh-huh.
They was having problems. So I tried it again and I was still getting problems. And I tried a Feisty CD and there were no problems. And then I tried the Gutsy CD again and there were problems. So I installed Windows Vista on my laptop just, to clear everything up because that's what came with the laptop. And it worked perfectly. There was no problem with my laptop whatsoever. So I was able
Good game, Gutsy.
So I was able to confirm that, which problems on my laptop were because of Linux and which were because of hardware. And pretty much any problems were all Linux. So I reinstalled the Gutsy, and now it was working just fine because I did a full scan disk with the Vista. And it's Gutsy in a lot of ways is better than Feisty, in a lot of ways not so much different, and in some ways a little bit worse. Most notably, I think the one thing that's worse, and I'm not sure if this is Ubuntu's fault, is there's a thing called the Desk Bar applet, which I use a lot.
I really like it.
Yeah. Apparently, someone's project for Google Summer of Code was to sort of refactor the desk bar to make it better.
Uh-huh.
And in many ways, they made it better. It doesn't crash. It's very much more stable. It's faster. It's better in a lot of ways and good for them. In other ways, they've ruined the user interface of it. It's now really, in all honesty, it's no longer a desk bar. It's just a button that you put in your bar, and if you push that button or push the keyboard shortcut for that button, it pops up a window. Literally. All it is a button that makes a window show up.
Well, I mean, the way I have it now, it's just a window pops up, but that window has a dialogue in it.
Yeah, but I mean, that window's sort of, it's not like a separate window. It's like sort of attached to the button, right?
So now it's not attached. It just kind of pops up in the middle of my screen.
It could have it pop up anywhere on your screen that you want. It's a window, like a full-on window with a close button and everything.
You know, I feel like they're just trying to do too much with it.
I think they are trying to do too much with it.
The reason I like it is that it's simple. It's like launchy in Windows. It's just,
Yep.
I run any program I want without having to think about it.
And I can extend it. I like how I can make it do more or less, but I prefer to make it do less. So the fact that they make it this whole window is sort of annoying. But good things about the Ubuntu Gutsy. Of course, newer kernel, runs faster, runs better, more things work. Some things that
except Scott's hard drive.
It works fine. Some things that used to not work do work now. Some things that used to not work still don't work.
Yeah, I gotta check. I gotta test it when I get a chance. Hopefully, the network card built into my motherboard will work with this kernel.
Well, what's wrong with the one that you bought?
I'm using that one now, but I'd rather use the embedded one since I have two of them.
All right. But the one thing that's a big change, the biggest thing you're going to notice, is the addition by default of the Compiz Fusion. Which is the super eye candy desktop window managing thing that everyone's showing off all the time. And basically, if you just don't have 3D, so if you have, let's say, here you go, you have an NVIDIA card, right? You install Gutsy. It's going to be disabled, not working. It's going to be off. You have two choices. You can set it to normal or crazy. And in order to set it to normal or crazy, you're going to have to install the NVIDIA driver, which is very easy. You click one button.
You should do that no matter what. There's no
Yeah.
reason not to.
So you install the NVIDIA driver. Now you can set it to normal or crazy. Normal is what I like. It lets you have just the drop shadows on the windows and like fading menus and, you know, just the subtle stuff, right? Crazy advanced makes the wobbly windows and all the stuff you can't handle, right? But there's a secret. You can do apt-get install compiz settings something, and you can choose custom. And basically, it gives you this extra control panel to configure compiz, right? And I did this at work today pretty much all day on my work computer. This is crazy. It takes you days probably just to set up all these crazy settings, but you can do crazy stuff. There was even a thing that lets you like draw on your screen and then like erase it. Instead of having to touch your screen, you can like draw on it. And there was stuff to like do. You could browse through your windows the same way you browse through like albums on an iPod, where it kind of goes whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. You can do the expose like on a Mac. You can do expose of your virtual desktops. All kinds.
I like that one right there.
There's all kinds of crazy action going on if you bother to futz with it.
That's definitely a step up.
Spinning cube.
If you try to use the desktop effects in Feisty, I mean, it looks like it works. There's a little dialogue, and hey, do you want this? Do you want this? And it doesn't give you many options, obviously, but it just breaks your computer.
That is one thing I must say, is that there is much less breakage. I mean, there's a little breakage. Like on my laptop, it takes a little while for like the taskbar at the bottom to appear, you know, when I start it up. So I turned it off on my laptop because it was eating the battery. But it worked really well with my shitty Intel laptop video card. It just worked out of the box with a live CD.
Because God, in Feisty, I mean, if you enable anything with the desktop switching, it just completely destroys your desktops and gives you two
Yep.
and overwrites everything you change.
My only major complaint with this release is that it really screws around with your keyboard shortcuts, because you have keyboard shortcuts for Compiz, keyboard shortcuts for GNOME, keyboard shortcuts for the desk bar, keyboard shortcuts for individual applications. They're all separate. They're all over the place. They're all conflicting with each other. Nothing knows what's going on, and it's really beginning to be a nightmare.
Like with everything.
Yes. So
Luckily, the only
but with the
keyboard
the keyboard shortcuts are like 10 times worse than they were before.
See, the thing is, for that, I wouldn't use many. The only keyboard shortcuts I need, if I had expose and all that, I could bind them easily. But the stuff inside a few applications I use and the desk bar.
But see, that's the thing, is like the desk bar, I used to use Window Tab as my desk bar shortcut. Can't do that anymore. It doesn't work. It's really getting on my nerves here. So I had to go around, and it took me like a half hour just to figure out all these to get the keyboard shortcuts to be intuitive, just for the simple things like change desktop or open terminal. I couldn't find the setting that was intuitive and non-conflicting between all this crazy stuff all over the place.
Honestly, for all that stuff, because I do have one of those semi-fancy Logitech keyboards, I just bind those to reasonable looking things on the keyboard that aren't otherwise keys.
See, I like to use the window button in combination with other buttons because that's not used for anything in Linux.
Yep.
So I hold right now to change desktops, I hold down window and I push left and right on the arrows.
See, for me, I have the next track, previous track, play, pause, all those arrows and crap that I'm never going to use.
See, I use those for play, pause, next track, previous track.
See, I don't do that because if I'm listening to music, I'm just listening to music.
Uh-huh.
I don't bother with, and if I really want to change tracks or something, I just go into XMMS or whatever I'm playing with and click next track.
At least that's what I used to do back in the day when I had those buttons. Now with my happy hacking keyboard, I don't have those buttons anymore.
But I use the arrows to switch between desktops, and it's actually really nice.
Yep. All right.
Right, so in somewhat scarier news, Slashdot is about 10 years old. It's been around
how old are you?
a decade. I am 15 years older than Slashdot.
Uh-huh. So when you were 15, Slashdot came about.
Yeah, give or take. I was still in high
crazy
school.
because I didn't really read Slashdot till I was 17 or 18. So
yeah, remember in high school when I was
read
around
Slashdot
18.
for the second or third year.
A few people said they talked about Slashdot, but I didn't really read it or know much about it or care
I had
about
heard
it.
of it, and I went to it a few times before college, but I only seriously went to it when I got to college.
It was weird at RIT where I read Slashdot pretty much 2 days after I was at RIT, but you talk to people and it was this dichotomy of people either read all of Slashdot or had never heard of it. So you'd sit there and you're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah on Slashdot, and people would either say, oh, I already read that, or they'd say, what? What are you talking about?
And now we have Dig and Fark and all this other stuff.
Luckily, I remember when Dig came out, people thought, oh, that's the end of Slashdot, and there's a lot of things that came out, and every time people said, oh, Slashdot will die, and well, Slashdot's not doing as well as it used to be, and it's no longer
Dig definitely gave it a nice punch to the gut.
Slashdot is no longer the definitive and sole source of technology news for geeks.
And in a way, I think that is good. We needed more sources of news for geeks, that were void of Roland Peak-Paley.
But he's back.
He's
back.
I don't think he's back. I don't think he went away. I think we just stopped paying attention and stopped seeing him.
Yeah. The thing is, Slashdot, the reason I think it's still around is that it offers something that those other sites don't offer, and it's that the comments are not useless.
Well, not anymore. Not since all this useless people went to Dig.
Even then, they weren't that useless because the moderation system actually worked pretty well. And
Yep.
I can say that I never read Slashdot articles because I never needed to. Any article, if you want to know what the article was actually about, whether or not the article was true and what the gist was, all you had to do was go into the comments and it was clear almost immediately exactly what was important.
Another thing about Slashdot is that, unlike Dig, Slashdot goes by its tagline. It is news for nerds. Yup. Stuff that matters. And while the editors are not perfect and they put up dupes and they put spelling errors
And Roland Peak-Paley.
and stuff like that, they really do, for the most part, only post things to Slashdot that matter in some way. And you're not going to get those, freaking stupid stories like someone got...
Ron Paul Gold Standard Aliens.
Yeah, that shit doesn't go on Slashdot if it's not April 1st. So I guess that is one thing in Slashdot's favor. Is even though it doesn't get the news right away, and it doesn't get all the news, and it doesn't get, it might miss something here or there, or it might put something up that's kind of eh.
I've noticed one thing, though, about Slashdot that I just realized it now thinking about it. Slashdot used to be really funny. I remember I'd read it, and it would be really insightful comments, and it'd be really funny stuff. And now, it seems like all the people who would say something funny have gone to Dig and Fark, and they say their funny things there, because the only humor left on Slashdot is either the tech
Cowboy
equivalent...
Neil.
Well, it's either the tech equivalent of Filk, where someone will, post song lyrics that match up that they wrote about the Linux thing, or they make a really lame exchange of just really lame humor, but seems to fit with that vibe, or the old standard boring cliches of first post Natalie Portman grits Cowboy Neil.
Yep.
I never got the Natalie Portman grits thing. I never found that funny.
I also do not understand it. Plus, I came up with that one that was only old people in North Korea, old people email you or whatever.
What?
Remember there was a thing with like South Korea, and only
Yes.
old people use email?
Yes, because I'm sure in North Korea anyone uses email.
Nah, but it was South Korea, and only old people were using email, and I combined that with the Soviet Russia, and I had,
Oh, I see what you did there.
that was my thing on Slashdot.
That was your thing?
And people, it was cool because I posted it first before anyone else, and then people actually carried it into other threads without me doing it. It was one time. It was good.
Yeah. I don't know. Slashdot, I still find useful. I still read it. I actually read Slashdot as opposed to Dig, where I just go there to get whatever the news is, and I ignore what people post.
Yep.
Things of the day. Bodega.
Bodega.
So, I think Emily is the one who found this.
No, I found it.
You found it? All I know is
found it.
I was out of town, and I come back, and...
I found it actually like over a week ago. I just didn't show it to anyone until more recently.
Why not? Why didn't you?
The opportunity did not arise.
This is so perfect. And now that's been around a while, there's starting to be internet buzz.
Is there internet buzz? I didn't notice any.
I saw it on Dig.
It was on Dig when I found it days and days ago.
And I got more digs.
All right.
So, but anyway, and also I saw an article on Fark about it.
Aha. Nice.
I think these people might get some press in the end just because New York City, you know, Fark, there's this cliche. Anytime New York City's in the news, it's always like something minor, and everyone always, this wouldn't have been in the news if it wasn't about New York City. And there's like this amplification effect. Just because,
like on ESPN, they get that same sort of thing. Like I listen to this one sports podcast, and whenever they talk about like the Yankees or the Red Sox or anything like that, people are always like, oh, they keep talking about those New York sports. Yeah, not paying attention to our middle of nowhere sports.
Yeah, there's just, more people living here than in the rest of our state combined, but...
Yeah, that's all. And
Yeah,
ESPN's in Connecticut, really close to New York.
Plus, also, it's kind of relevant to what's going on in the world today, just because this is a video made by two awesome guys about bodegas. Now, this might be a foreign concept to people who don't live in the Bronx or New York City or downstate New York. Because it's kind of, I haven't seen this sort of thing elsewhere. There are analogs. I mean, you go to the hick town in the middle of nowhere, you'll find like the local, not quite a 7-Eleven that has some food, but it's also a gas station and a general store. But this is really something special. It's the bodega in the Bronx. If you are walking around...
in Queens or Brooklyn. They have these all over the place.
Yeah, but I spend a lot of time in the Bronx, and there's a lot of them in the Bronx.
Oh, there are. And
often like 2 or 3 next to each other.
And the price varies by location. Like there's some of these near my work in Soho, but the prices are much higher.
So what makes a bodega as opposed to just, I don't know, a convenience store? I think number one, and as you'll see in this video, very specifically, is the quarter water.
Quarter water.
Quarter water.
If you don't got quarter water, you're not in the bodega.
I've never actually drunk that stuff.
I think my people who lived across the street from me when I was a kid used to like buy it, like a whole bunch of it from BJ's and stuff, and I drank it a couple times.
Wait a minute,
it's not good.
Buying that from BJ's, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's already only a quarter. How cheap is it there?
It was when I was a kid, I would go over there and drink it, and it'd be no good. And I think they called them like teenies or something. They didn't call them quarter water, and my mom wouldn't buy it for me, and I didn't want it because it tastes like shit.
I think that's pretty much it. If you see that for sale, it's probably a bodega.
At least if it's 25 cents, you're in the bodega.
Just watch this video, and all I have to say is it might not be funny if you don't live around here and you haven't seen this before, but going into these things and eating some of that food sometimes and just being it's such a fixture of the Bronx, and it's just...
Yeah. I just like the general vibe I get from these guys in that it's sort of like the same vibe as the You Can't Catch 10 Pokemons video.
It is. It is.
And at the same time, these guys are being all silly chilling in the bodega, but they're also making a point. But they're not making the point like, we're making a point. It's like, they happen to make a point.
I like that their point
it's sort
is...
of like not even trying to make a point. But
the economy was what? Fuck the fuck up?
The economy is still fuck the fuck up. Oh, shit.
What's really funny is they're doing this kind of for the camera, so they're playing it up a little bit, but people talk like that in the Bronx. If you walk into a bodega, you'll hear conversations that sound almost exactly like that.
Oh, shit. Oh, man, you got some ice cream sandwiches.
And I actually eat those things all the time.
They're 25 cents. You can't go wrong.
Sometimes they're 50 cents, but they're better.
Yeah, and where I work, it's like $2 for 2 cookies with ice cream in the
That's
middle.
because you work in Manhattan.
Yeah.
I work in the Bronx.
Manhattan.
Oh, Manhattan.
Yes.
Weren't you the one who didn't know where the word Manhattan came from?
I do now.
Yeah, you do now.
I couldn't find it on the internet though. I asked the internet. It didn't know. I had to
Wait,
ask.
so you asked the internet where the word Manhattan came from, and you couldn't find anything?
Not in the Wikipedia for Manhattan.
So apparently Wikipedia is the internet.
No, but that was the easiest place to look, and it didn't say anything. And I was like, what the fuck?
You sure it didn't say anything? Did you actually read the article?
No, but I
'Cause,
skimmed the important parts.
Because I worry now that someone listening is thinking, oh, I should go to the Wikipedia and look this up, and hey, there's a section here called Origin of the Name Manhattan.
Well,
and the whole
that's-
story.
Well, yeah, I looked at the article, but you go to check the edits, because I looked at the article 5 seconds before the edit was made that added that piece of information.
Yes, that edit was made 2.5 years ago.
Yes, quite.
Regardless, this video will teach you a lot about what it's like to live, work, or be anywhere near the Bronx.
Oh, and one thing about these guys, I think their names are like Dallas and Rafi. And like in this video, they have URLs like separate for each of them. But now I think they call themselves like the internet's celebrities. That's what they call themselves.
Oh, that's
now.
so perfect for them.
And they made some other videos. Like in one of the videos, they talked to Hammer. Like for real, Hammer is there talking to them.
Man, we should try to interview Hammer.
Yeah, but Hammer was saying cool stuff, even though he wasn't too eloquent. I think it's because they caught him off guard.
Of course, it's MC Hammer.
But that's why the video was so cool, is because he was being all just talking. And these guys are cool guys.
So these guys, actually, I think part
check
of the
out
reason
their
I like
YouTube
them,
channel.
they remind me a little bit of Dave and Joel, just in terms of it's just banner.
They do have a little Dave and Joel going on, I must say.
We kind of lost the banner as we didn't commercialize, but a lot of people accuse us of having done so.
All right. So my thing of the day, hey Rim,
Bodega.
if you're at sea on a boat,
Yeah.
and it's the olden times, and you do not have computers to tell you the weather or anything, right?
Right.
And you're just looking at the water, and you can't see anything but water and the boat. And you don't even have any sails out because you're not sailing right now. You're just floating, right?
But even if you're just floating, you have to have sails out.
Do you? You can't just float with no sails?
Well, it
You
depends.
can't, like, tie them all up and just have the sticks sticking out?
Sometimes you put a sail up just to keep your position.
Oh, okay. Anyway. And you're just looking out over the water, and you want to know how fast the wind is going. How do you tell?
Well, what I do is first I look at the exponent for my CYs, and then I roll that many dice against, say, an obstacle 1.
How do you really do it? If you're on a real boat in real life and not playing a game.
I just know because I'm an awesome captain.
No. Apparently, I did not know this. I learned something today. There is a thing called the Beaufort scale.
I thought you were going to say bodega.
No, or maybe the Beaufort scale. Beaufort, Beaufort. The Beaufort scale is a way to tell how fast the wind is going based on looking with your eyeballs and taking in other sensory data with your 5 senses. You can estimate the speed of the wind and how dangerous that wind will be on sea and land.
Now, this is interesting. I mean, think about it. There was a time, ladies and gentlemen, before there were fancy computers and things, and people
They
still
didn't even have cup anemometers. It was so primitive.
people still had to know things like how fast the wind is generally, and it wasn't just, oh, it's fast, it's not fast, but you had to at least be able to say, all right, is it faster now than it was 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, with the scale, there's like 12 different settings on the scale, and you can get the wind speed within 5 knots or 6 miles an hour, which is not bad.
It's kind of like how they used to how they figured out how fast tornadoes go, and it's kind of sick, but at the same time, it's kind of it's an interesting thing. Tornadoes, they rip through farm country a lot. And a farmer, I've heard this tale from someone else on BBC, so I blame the BBC if this is not entirely accurate. And they noticed that sometimes when tornadoes went through, chickens and things get killed, but the chickens were also shorn of all their feathers. And sometimes they weren't. So they took dead chickens and put them in wind tunnels, and they discovered that on a dead chicken, the feathers come off at a certain speed of the wind. And based on that, after a storm came through, they could look at the storm and know that whether or not the wind in the tornado was faster than or slower than a given point.
If they had the technology for a wind tunnel, why didn't they have the technology for an anemometer?
The reason is tornadoes come through really quickly, and they're so fleeting.
If you live in a tornado place, shouldn't you have An anemometer.
All right, so what are the odds that the anemometer is one in the path of the tornado? Tornadoes are very narrow.
You obviously didn't see Twister. You're supposed to put it in the way of the tornado with your truck while holding on in a room full of many, many scythes, more scythes than any farmer should ever own.
It's an F5. You know, I would like to say, because I didn't, that movie was the second worst movie I've ever watched. Well,
I only ever saw it.
Qualified by the fact that I watched it all the way through.
I watched it all the way through like 2 or 3 times because they made us watch it in school, and it was so dumb. It's a dumb movie. There's nothing good about it.
Well, the worst thing is,
dumb.
there's this whole idea of the storm chasers, and I believe this was invented by the Weather Channel.
Yep.
Where they're like, check out these cool people. Their job is to chase tornadoes with fancy equipment and vans, and look how cool and dangerous it is. And not only does that profession barely exist, but it's not like that.
Yeah, mostly they just kind of fly airplanes through hurricanes, and the airplanes are flying high and not in any real danger most of the time, and they have instrumentation on them that collects all the data, and then they fly out.
Though, speaking of bad movies, I, over the weekend, had the displeasure of watching the first 9 minutes of Silent Hill.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know what to do.
So yeah, Beaufort scale, however you pronounce it. If anyone learns it, you're way cool. I'm not going to learn it because I'm lazy.
It's pretty, I mean, you look at it, and the neat thing is, a system like this is all the points are very specific things. Like, if you see small twigs breaking off of trees, then the wind is about this fast. It's very objective.
Yep.
Right. So, we talk a lot on Tuesdays about gaming conventions. We talk a lot on Wednesdays about anime conventions and comic conventions, but how come we haven't talked about any science or technology conventions, Scott?
Because they kind of suck, most of them.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, well, this week, Friday, I think, I went to Digital Life, which is, it's pretty small. It's in the Javits Center, which is weird for being small in the Javits Center. It's run by, I think, Ziv Davis, and I'd been to it once before. I think I went to it 2 years ago, which I think was the second one. Now, the first time I went to it, it was actually a lot bigger than it was this Friday. And it's sort of like this tech convention, but it's sort of targeted at consumers. So it's like, here's the consumer's chance to come and look at all this cool stuff that usually people only see at trade shows they're not allowed to go to. And, you know, you see mostly, it's about half video games, you know, so like there's like a LAN party going on, and the Army has their little, you know, Humvee VR type of thing going on, and you could play Guitar Hero 3 there and stuff. You could play Crysis and BioShock there. And Nvidia's there, and Intel, and the other half,
I can play Intel.
Yeah, the other half is sort of like technology for normal people. So there'll be like cell phones, and HP is there, and Microsoft is there showing off their stuff, and Toshiba's there with their laptops, and you know, that sort of thing.
So what? Microsoft? It's Vista and a Zune.
Yep. Now the first time I went there, there was big booths, right? And then there were the small booths, and there were a lot of small booths with a lot of small people, and the small people that year were mostly selling iPod accessories, because like the iPod Nano had just come out. Because I remember I was there looking for like an iPod Nano case, because there weren't any, and I had just gotten the Nano because it was brand new. And I think there were also, like, Nintendo was there with the DS, because the DS was super brand new. That's how old this was.
I missed that one too.
Yeah, and the one this Friday was sort of like just the big booths, and there weren't small booths, and it was kind of sad, and it was, most of the attention was on the video games and stuff. And I think the only significant announcement that happened there was like Palm had a new device or something that wasn't too exciting, and it was just kind of, yeah, okay, I've seen all this stuff. I can see the stuff online. Okay, cell phones that I know exist.
Well, I think that's the big thing. A lot of these trade conventions existed back in a time, I mean, it was for, there wasn't an internet. You couldn't find out about stuff that quickly. And now, you really only need 1 or 2 journalists to see something, and then everyone else in the world knows immediately.
Yeah, it's like, why do they... I mean, this I can understand, because it actually lets consumers get hands-on with some stuff that they otherwise couldn't get hands-on with.
So what did you get hands-on with that you otherwise couldn't?
Well, I played with like a Nokia N95 for about a minute.
But when are you going to be able to play with that in a store?
Never.
Never?
It's like a $700 phone. They don't really sell here that much.
So you're not going to buy one?
No, so $700.
So playing around with it enrich your life? You feel better about that?
Well, I thought it's a lot smaller than I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was too big, and that's why I never really wanted one. Now I realize, whoa, that's like, if anyone is out there with a fistful of money and you want the phone that does everything, spend $700 on a Nokia N95. It does everything. You don't need to unlock it. You can buy an unlocked one from Nokia. It does everything. Everything. Absolutely everything you want, it does. And it's really small, much smaller than I thought.
Uh-huh.
But other than that, I mean, I didn't want to wait in line to play Guitar Hero 3 because I could just play it when it comes out. I didn't want to sit around and play in a gaming tournament or anything. I didn't want to, play with laptops that I could play with at the store. It was really just kind of The most exciting thing was I was walking around and there was some music, and I go over there and it was MC Frontlot was there.
Ah.
But he wasn't, he was just it was kind of sad, actually. Like, no one was really watching him or cheering or anything, and he was just, I think he was there like someone was paying him to be there, and it was kind of sad, like that guy at Kineticon who was in the panel room before us.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of sad like that. I was like, oh, poor MC Frontline.
That's just what happens when you take someone who is popular in one arena and pay him, or for whatever reason, just have them in another arena trying to get those people to switch arenas.
Well, it was his arena. I mean, it was super video game sponsorships, but
it wasn't super video games, hey, it's a weekend party where all the penny arcade types would come. It's all the people who are in the city and want to see consumer tech would come.
Yep.
I don't think many people thought, oh, crap, Vigigames.
Well, actually, no, it was
Javits.
mostly Vigigames.
But how many people thought, oh, Vigigames, and went? How many people even knew this was happening?
They did advertise around the city with various signage.
Yeah, but not so much on the internet. I doubt many internet people knew much about this unless they really follow tech.
People go to websites like Engadget knew about it, but that's about it.
Yeah. But like the penny arcade reading Vigigamer who lives somewhere nearby.
No idea. No idea whatsoever.
Plus, it doesn't sound like it was their kind of event. It wasn't a hang out and play games all weekend. It was stand in a line and play Guitar Hero 3 once.
Yep, pretty much. So yeah, it really just wasn't that exciting, and it wasn't worth any money to get in, but Emily got in for free, and I got in. See, the thing is, the first year I went to this, I got in for free because someone on a blog posted a code you could use to get a free ticket. That's the only reason I went in the first year, the second year, 2 years ago. This year, I went up, and I was gonna pay to get in, right? So I walk up, and I see a sign that says self-registration. So I walk over, I type in my information, then I see a sign that says printing station. And I go over, and my badge is printed out, and they hand it to me. And I'm like, should I pay? They're like, no.
No.
Then later, I was standing around waiting for Emily, and I saw there was a booth that said cashier. That was before the self-registration booth. And I just didn't see that cashier booth.
Wow.
And the cashiers obviously didn't notice. No one else noticed. I didn't notice. And I just got in for free without even, like, I stole a badge, basically, without even realizing it.
Oh, man, you should, see, this is when
But I was glad, because if I would have paid, I would have been pissed. Because it was
the
not
spin
worth
should have been,
$15.
yeah, they recognized me, and they gave me a badge, and I got in for free. Yeah, Geeknights, blah, blah, blah. I'm a journalist.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, it was just kind of,
Wow, I wish I could have done that for OhioCon, too.
And that's why I missed the Friday night party line, mostly because it was weird, because I was at work, right? And I was like, all right, am I going to go home and do Friday night party line, or am I going to go to this thing? And I was like, oh, wait, all right, I'm going to do the Friday night party line. And then later in the day, Emily was like, we going to go to this thing? And I was like, do you want to? And she's like, yeah. And I totally forgot about the Friday night party line. If I'd remembered, I probably would have gone home.
If I recall, I believe, I don't know if she'll get mad or laugh, but I think she had an ulterior motive in getting you to go to that. I think she just wanted to ride home from the train station.
Maybe.
It probably worked out, though, because it sounds like it was worth it to go.
Yeah, whatever. Point is that at least they gave you something to talk about on the show.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I guess the broader thing is, we'll talk a little bit, because Scott went to one of these things, that when it comes to science and technology, the conventions that exist are not like the conventions for anime and video games and Star Wars Trek and Star Wars and all those things.
Oh, by the way, I heard from Gerald of Anime World Order, there is going to be a convention down south somewhere that is going to be, get this, ready? The Naruto and Star Trek convention.
What?
I'm not joking.
Why?
I don't know, but that's all I'm going to say about it for now. We'll continue about the tech conventions.
God, I'm out of the loop.
Yeah.
Right, but there seem to be two kinds of tech, well, I guess three kinds of tech conventions. One of these kinds is a scam, but I'll get to that one last. Because, the one Scott went to, these happen all the time. They're just a consumer/press event where I guess they usually let the public into these things just as a way of making more money and as a way of making some buzz. But largely, these events are for the press. You know, the company will announce, we're releasing the cell phone blah, 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 XD6.
It's like E3 was supposed to be.
Yep. So the press will go, and they'll take all their press photos, and they'll take the press kit, and they'll interview, like, the 4 engineers who were standing there with canned statements ready to be interviewed, and then they go home, and they write their little article about the new thing that came out, and all the articles are the same, but that doesn't matter, and that's what those events mostly are. That a lot of times the public gets let in just to, hey, we can make some money just by letting people in, and hey, the people who are setting up and showing stuff off, they'll be happy because now they can also hawk their wares to normal people instead of just to the press.
That's what a lot of the for-profit comic book conventions do, is they have it like an industry night or like a preview day or something like that where, you know, the people who are in the business are supposed to get in and not other people, and so that they can do business. And then while everyone has these booths set up, why not let normal people in? We can charge them for admission and then sell shit to them.
Or put the cashier where no one will notice it and then not charge people for admission.
That too, I guess.
I can say it's clearly...
Actually, it was kind of sad that I missed the cashier. It was pretty big and obvious, but they missed me.
I don't know. Sometimes, because there was a time in my life when if I had an opportunity to either talk my way into or somehow get a free badge, regardless of how shady it was, I probably would have just done it.
Yeah, like try bypassing the cashier at Otakon.
Yeah. You know, I'll bet we could have if we really wanted to.
Yeah. I think the failing that they had was they didn't have the badge giveaway as the person who takes your money.
Well, I figure 1, they probably didn't care.
Yep.
And 2, they probably just didn't even think.
Nope. Anyway.
Yeah, but the sad truth is it's not that hard to get into any convention free if you're willing to be a shady dude.
So let's talk about the different types of like science tech conventions, right?
Yeah, well, aside from the one we just talked about, which Scott went to, all I can say about them beyond what we've already said is that they're usually not worth going to.
No.
Because anything you would get to do there, you'll be able to do in the real world pretty quick.
Right. Now, the major kind that you're going to see most often are these kind where you're supposed to, like conferences, you're supposed to learn something, right? It'll be like PyCon or OzCon or something like that. And some of those are actually good stuff. You will learn things if you go there and you want to learn. And they have people giving speeches and presentations and workshops and, you know, birds of a feather thingies going on.
Yeah,
right?
I remember at PenguinCon, I learned a lot about PGP.
Yeah, there's stuff to learn, right? The thing is, they're usually aimed at people with jobs, and they charge a lot of money to get in, and everything costs a lot of money. It costs like hundreds of dollars to go. We're not talking like $50. You think that's a lot of money?
No, these things are like, it's $500 to get in, and you got to stay there for like 5 days.
And each different thing you want to see, that's just to get in. If you want to go see like speech 1, 2, and 3, you have to pay separately for each one of those things.
And most of these events, these are the ones that are kind of scams. They're not marketed to people because except for the exceptional rare ones that are actually worthwhile, most of these are marketed to corporations, and they market them as send your employees here, tax breaks, whatever, because of, you know, training, and it'll make your employees better. If you don't send your employees, bad things will happen.
And what happens is companies spend a lot of money, and this company that does the presentation convention makes a lot of money, and employees basically get off work, get a free business trip. They don't actually really learn anything. They mostly hang out with the other people there drinking and having fun in hotels and whatnot.
It's kind of a scam that it's good for everyone but the corporations that send their employees off.
Which, who cares? That's your boss. What do you care if they get
I
ripped
know.
off?
I mean,
Unless you are the boss.
It's
in which
scary.
Case, don't send your employees there.
Yeah, just remember, most of these tech conferences, not just tech, but
they're even doing it for podcasting now. There's like podcasting expos and things like that.
Oh,
like,
they're growing.
And
There's
they're putting them all over the place. And they're like, come learn about podcasting. Give us a lot of money, and you'll listen to like a few workshops about podcasting for a weekend. And it's like, give me a break, dude. You're ripping everyone off.
These events are almost all worthless.
And these companies, like, they catch on to the latest trends, and then they start conferences about the latest trends, and then, you know, they'll keep switching them up to as much as they can to keep up with the times, to get more people to show up.
Yep. Along the same line, sometimes what they'll do is they'll have a timeless generic thing like leadership training or team building or anything like that. And it's all bullshit.
Yep.
All of it. And your corporation will spend, you know, upwards of $1,000 to send you. And if your boss ever asks you if you want to go to one of these things, say yes, because here's what it really means for you. One, like Scott said, you get off work for a bunch of days because they're usually, you'll notice, scheduled during the week and not on weekends.
Yep.
That's very on purpose because otherwise people wouldn't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Two, all expenses paid vacation to somewhere 3,
It could be right next door to your house, but vacation.
3, these places often don't take attendance, so you don't actually have to go to the events unless they're checking. And you'll find out right away if they're checking or not.
Yeah, but if you want to learn something, there usually is an opportunity to learn something. And if you don't want to learn anything, what do they care if you paid and didn't show up?
Yeah, well, honestly, usually there's not much to learn. I mean, if you go to one of these things about, I don't know, Web 2.0, whatever, business PR, you're not going to learn anything you didn't already know.
And also, if there was something to learn, all the good ones, you can listen to the presentations like months after the conventions on the IT Conversations Podcast Network for free. So if you want to hear these kinds of, presentations and learn something, and you don't want to pay money, go to IT Conversations. They have all these things up there to download and listen to.
The rule when going to one of these is the when in Rome approach. If you go to one and you see that everyone else there, or the majority of them, are going to all the events, go to all the events. If you go and you immediately see everyone heading out to the bars, head out to the bars. And while you're there, network with all those people, because that's the only real purpose of this trip.
And don't network for your business.
No, God, no. Don't even say what company you work for. Just
unless you want to. I mean, network for yourself mostly. You're there for you. Take advantage of your company's spending money.
Actually,
and there's no way your company was going to ask you when you got back, what did you do there? Did you learn anything?
Yes, I learned how to energize my synergies.
Yes, just make up some bullshit.
And seriously, if you're looking for a job in your industry and you want to get out of where you are, go to one of these things and you'll find someone who's going to hire you most often if you actually try to meet people.
No. The other kind of tech conference that you're going to see is actually the kind that's sort of worth going to. And that's sort of like, the by geeks for geeks kind of deal.
PenguinCon.
Well, PenguinCon was weird in that it was a science fiction, Linux, gaming convention all in one, right? So even if the tech Linux part of it failed, it would be science fiction and gaming, which is worth going to.
Yeah, it was primarily Linux.
It was primarily Linux, though. And basically, during the day, you had people who were really cool, especially that Mozilla guy. Wow, he was really awesome. You could go and sit and listen to them talk about all this awesome Linux stuff. And then, at the end of the day, at night, everyone sits around playing board games and drinking.
Yeah.
Free beer.
Well, that kind of convention is the kind I like. It's the same as the video game, anime, whatever conventions. It's just a convention where it's about a topic nominally, or it's about a field of interest, or some way to get a bunch of like-minded people together. But regardless of what is going on at the event, the point is you've got a bunch of people with similar interests in a hotel somewhere, and they can talk to each other and hang out.
Yep. Similar conventions would be like DEF CON in Vegas.
Yep.
Is very similar. There are other open source things you can go to that are pretty cool in a similar way, like Bar Camp or things like that, where basically what it is a bunch of open source type programmer people get together and like they work on stuff and teach each other things. And this is the kind of thing you can go to if you actually want to learn and do technology for a weekend or something like that. You're not going to there'll be some drinking and some playing and some fooling, but it's primarily going to be technology and learning, and it's mostly for open source, cool, hip people and not so much the businessmen.
Yep. The one thing I can say, at least if the internet and my experiences at PenguinCon are any indication, and I think they are, if you think that the people at anime cons drink a lot, or the people at sci-fi cons drink a lot, good God. It seems like Linux people, for some reason, there is a very strong correlation between them and vast quantities of microbrewed beer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, PenguinCon had, as part of admission, if you had a badge, infinite free beer for the whole weekend.
Oh, wow.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I've never been to another con that had that.
And they made there was that colored alcohol they were giving out.
Oh yeah, the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster.
The supposed Pan-Galactic. That wasn't really. It was just
Scott,
Kool-Aid and
wait,
Vodak.
Scott. It wasn't really the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster.
No, it was just Vodak and Kool-Aid. That's
Scott,
what it was.
What is the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster?
It's not Vodak and Kool-Aid.
What is it?
I'm gonna look it up. I know it's from the hitchhikers, whatnot.
It's not real, is what it is.
I know.
There's
that.
a bunch. The most recipes I've seen are made up and usually involve Everclear.
Yeah, but no, this was like Vodak and Kool-Aid.
It was
in a big cooler.
It was, you go to a party and there's that blue drink, and everyone knows not to drink it unless they're prepared to not remember what happened.
And many people drank it and didn't remember what happened.
I believe there was a drink like that at Scott Johnson's Bacchanal.
Bacchanal, you say?
The one we didn't go to because the Wii was coming out.
All right, that one.
Yeah, look at us. All right, it's either go to a crazy drunken party that a friend of ours is throwing,
And he's going to get his Wii at the drunken party.
or just stay at home and do nothing and then get a Wii as soon as it comes
Well,
out.
because what was I going to do? Try to play the Wii with all these drunken people or try to play the Wii quietly in my own home?
Well, you play with your Wii quietly in your own home all the time anyway, so it was the next logical.
Are there any other kinds of tech conventions going on we could talk about?
I don't know. I honestly avoid them. The only one I'd love to go back to PenguinCon because
The thing is, I'm looking at PenguinCon. It's currently PenguinCon 6.0 is going to be in Troy, Michigan, April 18th through 20th. But
not Novi. All right.
no, but the guest list is actually looking much sadder. I think the year we went was the peak.
I think
it's been
PenguinCon.
downhill.
That was what 2.0.
Yes.
I think PenguinCon 2.0 was the perfect storm of Linux. I mean, think about it. All right, it's a Linux convention, and we happen to live in Rochester, so we could just drive through Canada and be there. It wasn't that far. Neil Gaiman happened to be there. He read us a story, and then he got drunk with everyone. Steve Jackson just happened to be there. What's his name from Slashdot just happened to be there. It was just
That
nothing.
cool Mozilla guy was there. Our friends were there.
It was nothing but cool people.
Pretty much all the people that we know that were like super techie went with us. It was like the super tech crew.
Yep, the only
it was
thing-
like me, you, Alex.
Yeah, because we took his van.
We took his van.
And James.
And
and
Steve Pomeroy.
And he, not
The
he shall not be
nerdiest,
named.
most open source people in the front row crew
Dude,
all went.
on our way to PenguinCon, we had a cell phone connected to the internet, and then we had an ad hoc wireless network shared from that cell phone and the first laptop to everyone else in the van.
It was all the open source nerdy people.
In fact, we wrote the SSID down and put it out the window. And we were hoping that if someone came by next to us, if they just drove next to our car, they could have connected to our LAN.
They could have.
No one did.
No one did. No.
I don't think many people drove from Rochester to Novi through Canada.
No. But I mean, and we learned how to play Tigris and Euphrates at that convention from a guy who worked for Mayfair Games.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It was quite the perfect storm, PenguinCon 2.0, and I think if we went to another PenguinCon, I do not think it would be a repeat. I think it would be a disappointment.
See, here's the thing. I think it would
especially considering the distance we'd have to travel.
It still would have been worth it to go if we still lived in Rochester, because
I
it's
think
not that
so,
far.
yes.
And it would have been worthwhile to go if we lived here, but it had the guest list from PenguinCon 2.0. I'd fly out for that exact same con.
I would also, especially with my 2020 hindsight.
Well, yeah, especially, I mean, remember Steve Jackson came over and said, "Hey, I've seen that game, Puerto Rico. I kind of
didn't
want to
know
play
it was him until-
And we say, "All right, scary dude, we're kind of busy right now. Just leave
Yeah.
us alone." And then some guy comes up and says, "Guys, that was Steve Jackson. You just blew off."
Oh.
Oh no!
And then we tried to suck up to him for the rest of the weekend, and then drama happened. But whatever.
Oh yeah, the drama. We're not going to tell the drama
No,
story.
but I guess there's one other kind of convention, and that's these like really targeted. They're not really conventions so much, but conferences more often. But for example, PyCon, it's all about Python, or Ubuntu Live, it was
Ubuntu
all
Live.
about Ubuntu, or our friend Steve, we just talked about, went to something in the city recently that was all about Drupal. So if you have a really specific interest, like WordPress or something like that, like one project, a lot of these projects, like MySQL or PHP, a lot of them have a big meeting somewhere that you can go to, and all the big people in that project sort of get together and really make something happen like once a year or something like that. So if there's a particular project that you are like really deep into, let's say you're really deep into, I don't know, movable type, which is a blogging thing. You know, there's probably some sort of convention conference for that you can go to somewhere in the world.
Yep. The only problem with these is if you're not really into that thing, it's not that, oh, well, you won't have as good a time. It's you can't have a good time.
There's nothing for you to do there, because imagine going to a place where
You know what
people,
it's like?
people work on and talk about and help each other with WordPress for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's going to
It's
be.
not like an anime con where you could hate anime and everything involved with anime and still have a really great time at an anime
Or
con.
go somewhere where people talk about, Drupal, its software architecture, how to use it, how to make it, making patches to it, current bugs, the future of Drupal, the past, the history, for 3 days.
Huh.
Unless you're really into Drupal,
Yeah?
it's not going to be worth your time. But if you are really into Drupal, totally go.
Yep. Of course, it's interesting. I mean, by the same token, you look at the anime, video game, sci-fi world, and there aren't the focused conventions or the focused
Well, you can go to
gatherings.
the convention that's just for Gargoyles, the animated series.
Yeah, but from what I've read on the internet, that's just a giant sci-fi nerd party generally.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like everyone there likes Gargoyles a lot. I mean, I like Gargoyles a lot, but
I never really watched it.
really?
Yeah.
It's actually really good.
Right.
It's
I'm not,
I know, I'm just saying it was one of those rare cartoons, quote unquote, for children that was actually pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch
It
it.
was
again.
when I think there was something else on when it was on, so I didn't watch it too much, and I mostly watched something else I liked more, and I didn't take a risk on it when I was a kid.
Someday we'll Netflix
And
it.
none of my friends were really into it either, so it was like, you know.
Most of the fandom for Gargoyles was actually a little bit younger than us. We were kind of on the early edge of that fandom.
Yeah, I think I was watching like BTAS instead.
What?
Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, you gotta stop hanging out with these comic people, because you can't call things like that.
BTAS? It's BTAS.
No, it's Batman.
No.
I say Batman because
That's the problem is unbeknownst to you.
I know. And you know what my answer to that is? As far as I'm concerned, with the sole exception of the movie where Michael Keaton plays Batman, Batman the Animated Series is the only Batman.
What about that? See, if you just say Batman, people think you're talking about Adam West.
Oh, I know, but you know what? I don't care. Because when I say
Listen to
Batman,
Adam West. Watch out.
I like Adam West a lot.
All right. Okay. Are we done talking about tech conventions and conferences and how they're not quite?
I think we're done.
Yeah.
I think that the secret of this show was we have our Geeknights calendar where we list, every show we're going to do. And we plan sometimes a month or two in advance, but there's nothing in Monday at all for a long time.
Yeah, we filled up the calendar, but I think what's going to happen is a lot of the questions people ask that take a whole episode to answer will fill in the Monday calendar.
Yeah, so once again, all week, and probably all next week too, we're taking questions for all 4 nights of Geek Nights. If you have an anime question, a video game question, I guess an anything question for Thursdays. And it doesn't
anything that's not Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday should go Thursday.
And it doesn't just have to be questions about the tech or about the anime, like, well, so-and-so directed blah, but what do you think about the other blah he did? They can be questions like, so what do you think about blah, or what was your first blah?
Yeah, any question.
Just ask us anything.
Any question that's related to anime, whatever, in any way.
But the real secret, of course, was that tonight we didn't really have a show to do at all. And we just kind of came up with this on the fly.
I mean, I was thinking of using the digital life as the opening bit and then using the Ubuntu as the news or vice versa.
We thought we were going to do how computers work and talk about RAM, but we realized that the history of RAM is boring and doesn't matter. And the current technology of RAM is actually very straightforward.
Yeah, I could talk about how RAM works and stuff like that, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, but that's 5 minutes.
Yeah, so...
Bits go in, capacitance.
Capacitance, oh no is. All right. I think
do a
this
show on
episode is
capacitors.
over. We have to go clean the kitchen and eat some food.
Yeah, the house is kind of a disaster.
Only really the kitchen.
Yeah, the living room is better because I worked on it.
I need to put my laundry away, but that's about that.
Yeah, I exploded all over the living room and I had to unexplode.
Uh-huh.
And I found bits of explosion still.
Oh yeah, you did explode in the living room, didn't
Yes,
you?
I did.
Yeah.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geek Nights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.